Aloha, folks, and welcome to this latest edition of Five Questions. It is, as the name implies, we ask five questions of newsmakers and community leaders in our town and in our state. And today we're delighted to welcome on board Honolulu City Councilwoman Tulsi Gabbard, our first chance to have a chat. And Tulsi, thanks so very much for taking the time. How are you?
Aloha, Rick. I'm doing great. Thanks for the opportunity to talk story with you.
Well, you know what? We have five questions for you, and we're going to jump right on in. And I think the first one, question number one, kind of sets a groundwork for us. And could you tell us about your calling to public service? And if you could also please chat about your military service and the decision to serve not only in the House of Representatives, but also, of course, on the City Council.
Sure, absolutely. I know my family relatively well, and I come from a family of five kids, and my parents raised all of us with a very strong ideal and value, really giving a strong importance on the value of service and thinking of others, putting others before yourself in whatever line of work that we ended up in. And growing up, I never, ever imagined that I would ever be involved with politics. I was shy and kind of an introvert and quite happy to be helpful behind the scenes. But when I first decided to run for office back in 2002 for the State House, it was really a turning point in my life where I was given an opportunity. I saw an opportunity to either kind of just sit on the sidelines and watch and talk about things happening, or actually jump in and try to do my part in being part of the solution. And that's really what kind of got me started. And as I went door to door and as I started meeting people and hearing about their concerns and knowing that I had a strong passion and desire to be able to help them, the reward there has just been tremendous. This led into my military service after I served one term in the State House. It was 2004. I was campaigning for re-election, and the Hawaii Army National Guard was activated for duty in Iraq. And this was going to be an 18-month-long deployment. It was the first biggest deployment for the Hawaii Guard since Vietnam, and it was a really big deal. And it just so happened that I was one of a small handful of soldiers who were not on the deployment roster, that they didn't have a need for someone with my job, which was medical logistics. But in my heart, I knew immediately that there was no way that I could stay back and watch, my brothers and sisters in uniform head overseas to Iraq. And so it was a no-brainer for me that I would step down from my re-election campaign, and I got trained in a different job, and I volunteered to deploy with them. And it went back to that element of service that you initially brought up. I asked myself, how can I be of best service? And really at that moment, that was it. And I never regretted that decision at any time.
It's often said that age is just a number, but it's very unique that your service in the House found you to be the youngest serving member of the House of Representatives. What did you take away from that initial years of service at quite relatively a young age?
Yeah, well, I was 21 when I ran for office, and I really didn't think it was an issue at all. But when I started knocking on doors and talking to folks, they looked at me like, you're 21 years old. Don't you have a party to go to, or you have something else that you'd rather be doing than standing here at my door asking for my vote?
Right.
And that wasn't something that even dawned on me because it was really just about service, and the age or kind of what the norm was really didn't. It really didn't have an effect on me, and I found that as I went through, was elected to the state legislature, and really felt the gravity of the responsibility of representing people and helping to care for them and care for their families. And I believe that I was successful in the state legislature because of that focus on service. That I knew that it was not about me, that I was just the vehicle, to play that one small part in the community to take action and get things done. And I earned the respect of my colleagues because of that. I think when I came in, there was that same skepticism of who does this kid think she is, but really seeing the passion for service and the desire to get things accomplished, to improve our community, even in small ways every day, really, really helps work things out.
We're enjoying our conversation with Councilwoman Tulsi Gabbard joining us for this edition of Five Questions. Number two, Tulsi, in your view, truly what is the greatest challenge facing our community at large, and What would be your solution to that challenge?
There are so many challenges that we face here now, here in Hawaii, but across the country and even in the world. And I think this is such a crucial point for us because this is the first time that I've heard, even in my life, that people are talking about, opportunities for our children, the children of tomorrow, being less than they were for my generation. And that's something that should be a very frightening thought. And that's something that motivates me very greatly because I feel it is our responsibility. It's my generation's responsibility to make sure that does not become a reality. Some of these challenges that kind of surround that are the fact that I think oftentimes people who are in leadership positions in different areas spend more time pointing fingers at each other and placing blame rather than actually understanding that these challenges are bigger than all of us and that we have to overcome our differences and work together. And we see this locally. We've seen it more recently nationally with the debt ceiling debate. And really, I think that is the solution is found in that challenge, that we need to work together. And what we have so special here in Hawaii is the aloha spirit, which really, aloha in action is that solution. It allows us to respectfully differ where we differ, but find that common ground where we can work together and understand that we all want a better future for our kids. And let's find a way to make that happen.
Amen to all of that. Let me jump over to more of a occupational question in number 3. And, we've been following this drama that's been emanating out of the council from Councilman Berg's office. And not to get into the minutia or the details, but just overall, what has been your reaction to this situation? And more importantly for us as a constituency, has there been a net effect on council business? And if so, how?
I think anytime we have conflict and, kind of personnel issues in the council, it's an unfortunate distraction. I think there's a silver lining in any of these kinds of situations, and that is it's provided us all an opportunity to see some vulnerabilities just within our own processes and kind of the nuts and bolts of the council that maybe we weren't aware of before. And again, it's an unfortunate thing, and I think it's important that we have been focusing on making sure that the people's business is not inhibited in any way, and that this is not distracting us from the real work that has to be done.
Our question number 4, Tulsi, has to do with HART, and this is in the news yesterday, making news again with their revisitation of the Ansaldo contract due to that particular company's travails. But could you please break down where we are now with the rail project and this situation as you see it? What's your take and your forthright, honest assessment about the project at large?
Sure. Just generally speaking, kind of where we are when this was passed and the majority of voters voted for it. I think that was kind of the turning point for the rail project, saying that now that HART's in place, what the council's role has obviously changed, but it's incumbent upon all of us to keep a very close eye on all of these changing dynamics with the project. It being the biggest public works project that we've ever had, it's not something, there is no part of this project that we can really brush off, no sweat. So with this issue coming up with the rail cars, there are a lot of really crucial questions that need to be asked of the company and need to be really looked at closely. And I think HART is doing that. I've met with some of the different members of the authority, and I'm confident, especially Don Horner has such a keen eye on the financial aspects of the project, down to the minute detail, and knowing that every single step along the way is getting that kind of close examination gives me confidence in the authority and the work that they're doing, and knowing that they're keeping an eye on all the changing dynamics. Like I said, the federal funding is something that is still awaiting that full funding grant agreement, and the other elements that are there. So generally speaking, I think we are all keeping a very close eye on it. And as these different questions arise, we need to make sure that we get the right answers and the honest answers.
Did you have any reaction to the op-ed piece that Governor Ben and others had submitted?
I read it, and we also got a copy of the letter that they had sent to the mayor and copied the city council on.
Mm-hmm.
Those are questions that I've asked prior to the formation of HART, and questions that have actually already been addressed as far as any possible conflicts, as well as the change in the route. So I had felt satisfied with the answers that I had gotten, a few months ago when I first came on to the council.
Mm-hmm. We're talking with Tulsi Gabbard, City Councilwoman, with this edition of 5 Questions. Truly enjoying our time together. I'd like to wrap things up, more of a general question in number 5. What has been the greatest accomplishment that you have experienced, not only serving on the council, which has been for a period of a few months, but even hearkening back to your service as in the House of Representatives? Just kind of reflect back for a moment, if you wouldn't mind, Tulsi, and then after that, as a councilwoman, what are the 2 top priorities that you'd like to see accomplished in the near future?
Sure, Rick. Thank you. That's a great question, and it's one that I smile when I answer, because going back to when I was in the state legislature and even now on the city council, I've been blessed to have a great team of people. I've got a great staff who I have the opportunity to work with, and my philosophy that I've shared with them through my different areas of service have always been, how can we best serve all the people of Hawaii? And, so when we get a phone call from someone who's in Kaneohe or the North Shore or in Chinatown, it really doesn't matter. Our goal is how can we take action to try to help solve that problem? And so looking at accomplishments, to me, the accomplishments are not so much about, well, I've passed X number of bills or added this many pages to our ordinance or law books. Mm-hmm. It's more about how are we really making a positive impact on people's lives, both on a day-to-day basis and in the big picture. And sometimes those accomplishments mean there are certain pieces of legislation that we've stopped from becoming law. Mm-hmm. Sometimes those accomplishments mean, when Auntie Jo calls and she's just overjoyed that her potholes in her street have finally been filled after waiting for 10 years. And it's these kinds of really, they're not small victories, because, to the people who live there, they're huge.
Sure.
And that's what I've really enjoyed about working on the city council, but at all levels of government. The same thing when I was working with Senator Akaka in Washington, is just that opportunity. And it's such a wonderful opportunity to have that positive impact and to serve people and see that smile on their face when they are even just a little bit, their hope in government and the real true role of government as public servants is restored. And that's really my mission is, as elected officials, our mission is to serve people. Mm-hmm. That it's not about us, and that's what I hope to do every single day.
I also understand that when you do put a priority list together, there's usually 1 or 2 items that would stand out to say, listen, this is what I really want to address. Sure. And in your priority list, Tulsi, what would be the top 2 items?
I think number 1, people across the state would agree that jobs, we need to stimulate our economy. We need to provide opportunities for our people to be able to have good jobs and stay here at home. And that's really one of my top goals on the city council, is to see how can we work as partners with the different sectors of the community to be able to provide that economic opportunity. I think too much in the past, and even now, people see government, and it's not just a perception, sometimes it's reality, as being more of a blockade or a challenge to overcome, rather than us trying to work in partnership with members of the business community and even the nonprofit sectors who are trying to do different things. And so that's really, I think, the number 1, is to try to provide those economic opportunities and work more in partnership with, rather than sometimes in opposition to. One of the ways specifically that I'm doing that now is we're putting on a Sister City Summit next month in September in conjunction with the Asia Pacific Clean Energy Summit. Mm-hmm. And the goal of this summit really is to bring some tangible results to some of these, what have previously just been ceremonial sister city relationships, and provide some real economic opportunities, some educational opportunity and exchange between these other cities and counties and countries that we've already established relationships with. And I would say the second priority is kind of along those same lines, but as we plan for the future of Hawaii, we need to be smarter in our planning, and we need to think differently than how we thought in the past. And one of the ways that we need to do that is look at our natural resources here. How are we using them to their fullest potential? And everything from, looking at our trash and how we can use that and see it not as trash, but actually as a resource that can be used for energy or for other things. The same thing with our wastewater treatment, which we're looking at right now, is what worked and what made sense 10 years ago may not be the best plan and the best option today, as well as planning for the future. And that's something that I'm very, very focused on, is really taking advantage of our resources here and having a more sustainable community for the future.
Can't tell you how much I've enjoyed our conversation. I certainly hope that we'll be able to do it again on a more regular basis. Oh, go right ahead. Sorry.
No, thank you, Rick. I enjoy talking with you always, and appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about what we're doing with you and your listeners.
Excellent. Give our very best to your family, and we'll talk soon.
I will do so. Thanks so much, Rick. Aloha.
Thank you much. Aloha. Bye now, Tulsi.